So today I would like to go from the beginning. So let's start at the beginning. So today we are just going to start with hello world of ChatGPT or OpenAI APIs, and we are going to have chatbot conversation, the most basic chatbot conversation um, in API format, so that you can integrate with all your favorite programming languages and your apps. So let's begin. So let's go ahead and see what OpenAI say. Let me log in, and they kind of provide two apps. One is ChatGPT and one is API that you can integrate with your applications. Maybe it's web app or mobile apps or any enterprise application. And this is what we're going to focus on today. Let's go ahead with what API, what can we do about it, and straight away let's go to a quick start tutorial. We are going to use Python as our programming language because that's the uh, fastest way we can start uh, for a beginner. Um, we'll go through all the steps that are mentioned here and see if we can reproduce a chatbot. So it says you need to set up a development environment, install an SDK, um, interact and understand the basic concepts of OpenAI API, and then we're going to make our first API request. Okay, step one is set up Python. I believe almost every one of you who has a computer will have some version of Python installed. The minimum requirement would be Python 3. So I'm not going to go through how do you install Python and things like that. I assume you already have Python installed. Um, and this particular, so here for me is I'm gonna use Visual Studio Code as one of my IDE for development or for writing the code. The second one was set up a virtual environment, which again I'm not gonna do. Third thing is it says install an OpenAI Python library. I have done it, but if you have not done, this is how we're gonna do it. So let's go to your IDE or your favorite programming place where you're gonna write your code. Open a terminal, and then I'm just gonna say this particular line: pip install OpenAI or pip install hyphen upgrade OpenAI. So it will basically install a Python library for you. Meanwhile, it gets installed or upgrade. We'll see what the next steps are. Then it says you're gonna set up an OpenAI OpenAPI key for all projects or for a single project. For all project, I have already done that, and I'm not going to show you that process, but I'll go along with setting it for a single project because that's what uh, we will be doing today. Okay, it's taking a time to install, but we can do the next step. Basically, it says that we will be needing something called as OpenAI API key. So where do you get that? If you have already created an account on platform OpenAI, you know that you can click on your user and straight away go to view API keys. Most likely there is going to be none for you here. For me, it was there because I used it. We're gonna create one for our demo purpose today. So this is gonna be, let's say, YouTube training. Okay, this is going to be a key you need to copy. Most important, you have to remember that you can just copy it once. You won't be able to view it again ever. So make sure that you copy it correctly and save it and use it for your purpose. Okay. Okay, here it says that create a .env file and paste this particular value in it. OpenAI API is equal to this. Okay, let's go back here. We have already created, or we have already installed an OpenAI. Let me go ahead and create .env file for you. Let me save it and copy this one. Okay, so instead of OpenAI key is equal to ABC123, I'm going to put this one. So basically my environment variable for OpenAI underscore API underscore key is been created. If you are in production, if you are working for an organization, um, it is not going to be this way. There will be an entirely different setup altogether. Um, I really did not talk about it, but for sure, this is the most lazy and most unsecured way of saving your OpenAI API key. But for demo purpose, I'm going to use it, and then you know for a fact that it will be deleted later on. Okay, we're going to test if our API key was set correctly. We're going to copy this code and we're going to put it into a file called as openai-test.py. So let's create openai-test.py, and then we are going to execute this code. To execute it in VS Code, we can go to run and say run without debugging. So it will run the whole code, and we see that there was no error created. That means we are able to create this, or we are able to run these lines. That means our API key was set correctly using env file or .env file. Okay, so we are going to make an API request. Let's copy this code, put it here, and then once it is successfully executed, I'll try to explain it line by line. Just to keep the simplicity, I'll remove this particular line, and also I'm going to change the content or the prompt. Maybe I can just very quickly ask how much is 2 plus 2? Okay, and let's see how it gives an output. Um, for the for this time, I'm going to execute it line by line. That means I'm going to execute it in debugging mode. When you want to execute it in debugging mode, it's good practice to have something called as breakpoint. It will execute up to that point, and then you can take control of it. So yeah, it's F5 to start execution, or control F5 if you want to run without debugging. But I want to debug, so I'm going to go line by line there. Okay, and then I'm going to print the output. And you can already see the assistant says 2 plus t equal to 4, and indeed that was the um, output that we were expecting, right? So here are a lot of things here. First thing is OpenAI is a library, and we are going to call an API called as ChatCompletion.create. It needs minimum 2 parameters. It needs a model name. There are multiple models: GPT-4, GPT 3.5 Turbo. There is something for embedding purpose. There is something called as ADA 002. Many of them, but the most standard, most known ones are GPT 3.5 Turbo and GPT-4. And of course, it needs an array of messages which are in a very specific format. If you would have seen earlier, it is normally um, we need to have a JSON message, which is basically divided into two keys. One is the user, and so one is the role, and the other one is content. And always it's going to be a conversation between user and an assistant. So we pass on the user message, and then we're going to get assistant message or assistant's content. Cool. But this is not where we want to stop, right? We want to do a conversation. So we're going to ask a question, he's going to answer. We're going to ask a question, he's going to answer until we reach to a satisfactory answer. So now here we say, okay, how much is 2 plus 2? And we're going to ask the second question, how much is square of that answer? Okay, so maybe I'm going to copy it again and going to say, how much is the square of that answer? Okay, let's see what I get an output. Okay, one more time, F5. Okay, okay, it printed 2 plus 2 is 4. So he should remember that the previous answer was 4 and square of 4 is 16. That's what it should say. But oh, oops, I'm sorry, but without knowing the specific value of the answer, I cannot determine its square. That means there is no relation between this question, its answer, and the next question. And that's not what we want to achieve, right? Now, there is a little trick to achieve this. Uh, there is something called as context. So normally, if you say, okay, who is the president of United States, and then we say, okay, the answer is Joe Biden. And in a natural language, if you say, how old is he? By he means we know that we are talking about Joe Biden, right? But LLMs need to know what was the previous question. So to achieve that particular thing, what we need to do is we need to pass in the whole conversation, and then only it can keep a context. So now, so first we ask the question, then we need to pass it on its answer. And then we're gonna ask our next question. And let's see if we are able to achieve what we want to achieve. Okay, moment of truth. And tada. Okay, this is exactly what we wanted to say, right? So how much is 2 plus 2? The assistant or OpenAI gave us the answer. 2 plus 2 is 4. And then we say a follow-up question where we expect it to keep the context. How much is the square of that answer? And it says 16. Super cool. But of course, here we want every time the content, we want it to get it from user, and we want to keep on appending it to the message. So how do we reformat it? Maybe then quickly, as a Python programmer, you know, we can keep looping until a particular condition is satisfied with while loop. Okay, tada, prompt is equal to input, enter your prompt, response is equal to OpenAI create, and here I want my model to be GPT 3.5. No, I don't want. Okay, let me not take everything from here. Let me use my own prompts. I'll stop my GitHub for a while. Uh, or do you want me to? How do I stop it? Okay, disable completion. for the time being. Okay, let me disable that one. While true, let me get a prompt from user. If prompt dot lower is equal to exit, then I want to break, right? That means whenever user is going to say exit, we're going to stop the loop. Otherwise, we're going to keep on looping. Okay. If it is not, then we're going to create complete prompt is equal to, and instead of this, we are going to have a prompt, right? Okay. So this is going to be our user's prompt created. Now we're going to pass not the message, but we want to pass on the complete array of message, right? So we would be needing an array of messages. So message array is equal to, say, nothing, and then we're gonna say message array dot append complete message. Okay, and then we're gonna pass message array to our completion. Okay, dot create here model is equal to, I can reuse this one, and my messages gonna be equal to message array. Okay, and then of course I'm gonna print I believe we have done it quite good. Let me see. And whenever we get an answer, we're gonna append it again to our message array. Okay, so message array dot append. I mean, we can interchange also. We first append and then print. Egal, either way, no problem. Okay, so let's see if that is correct. So we're gonna loop through. We're gonna ask prompt from the user until he says exit, and then we're gonna put it the prompt to array, and then we're gonna give it to an API, the whole array. We're gonna get answer back, and we're gonna append at end of the array. I think so we are pretty good. Let's try to execute our most basic chatbot. I hope we are not gonna have errors, but hey, we are programmers. Okay, run, start debugging. Yep. Okay, array message is empty. While true, enter your prompt. Okay, how much is 2 plus 2? Okay, and then, okay, that's going to be our user role. Yeah, message array, and then we are going to call the API. Super, we got a response. We're going to attach that response to the end of the array now, and we are just going to print the completion. Super cool. Okay, so it printed, the output is 4, and we are going to ask again exactly the same question that we asked previously. Okay, what is the square of the answer. Okay, and come on, this time we want a great answer. Ta-da! Yay! The square of 4 is 16. Super. And now this time I'm just gonna say exit and our program should stop. Break. Super cool. So just 17 lines of code and we have achieved our most basic chatbot that you can interact with it in any way. So now um, there are millions and millions of possibilities how you can use it, how can you extend it, right? You can get the inputs from mobile apps, from in web page, from Excel sheet, from file, whatever you want. You can design your prompts in a very great extent. You can solve many complex programs, and that's what we will be doing over the period of time. I hope if you are able to, this is the basic unit of all the information, the way you're going to interact with um, Python API for OpenAI. Uh, I hope you will like it. As I always say, concerns, questions, suggestions are more than welcome, and I really want to take it to the next level. Hope I grow with you all, guys. Thank you so much. Have a great day.